high school graduate has sent me a simple sketch of what she wants: a pine tree, a white-tailed deer, the phrase "I did it," the Bible verse, you see, and also her birth month flower, which is actually a lily of the valley. So to get started, I go ahead and trace the exact shape of the graduation cap onto a 12 by 12 canvas. I then color in the button in the center of the cap, place it exactly where it needs to be on the canvas, press it down, and mark where that button is going to be. I also decided to make an X where I want the top of the cap to be, and marked the top of the cap as well with an X. Now, I did this because I have made the mistake before of painting a graduation cap, and I had actually turned it, and I had to start over again because I had lost track of where the top of the cap was. So I actually ended up painting that cap sideways and had to redo it. So from then on out, I made an X just so I would know. I know what colors I'm wanting to use. I'm wanting to keep it as neutral as possible. I like greens, and especially in doing a forest scene with a field, I wanted to use as many variations of green as I could. I know what I am wanting to paint for the graduate. I'm wanting the pine trees to be the very backdrop. That's the farthest thing from us, is going to be the pine trees. The field is going to be in the center of her cap, where the deer is going to be. And then the closest point to us will be the Mayflowers, will be the lily of the valley. And that's also where the Bible verse is going to be located. The permanent marker that I used did an excellent job of bleeding through the paint. I do not want to lose those guidelines. I want to be able to find where I need to use the box cutter, or if you have an X-Acto knife, you can use an X-Acto knife to cut this pattern out when you're done. I want to make sure that the field does feel like it's farther behind than the lilies of the valley. So I'm trying to make sure the blades are going to come up and look like it's closer. Painting the pine trees are really simple. You're just making a line, and then you're just making squiggles. I played around here in a little bit with possibly making some fog and incorporating that, but I decided to nix it. I decided to not fool with the fog and just focus on the trees, the field, and the flowers. I felt like the deer would be enough of a focal point that I wouldn't need to add fog and worry with blending all that in. But I did attempt it just to see what I felt about it and how it looked. The permanent marker also did an excellent job of bleeding through the paint to show me exactly where the button is going to be on the top of the cap. It was important for me to make sure that the deer was behind that button. I knew I was going to be putting a flower on that button, and it just wouldn't have looked right if one of the deer's legs had been in front of it as opposed to being behind it. So I was happy that that permanent marker did bleed through and show me exactly where I needed to start the deer. Anytime you're painting an animal, it can be a little bit intimidating, but just doing a rough sketch a lot of times helps. You can always go back and add more and more detail, but getting the basic shape and where you're wanting something placed is always a good idea. And you can see there where that button's going to be, and the deer will be standing behind it. So it was really important for me to make sure I didn't lose track of that permanent marker. Like I said, it wouldn't look right if the flower was behind the deer. Painting the deer is just a work in progress, and you just have to continually add colors. Like as this paint dries, you go back, layer it up, and but yeah, I'm gonna stop talking, and I'll just play some music, and I hope you guys enjoy watching me paint. I later decided not to use the black paint. I mean, I kept the black paint on the canvas, obviously, but I went back over it with a really pretty light blue called Tropical Bay. I felt like it standed out better and looked girlier.
Hey guys.
She didn't ask me to paint her name or the year on her cap, but I decided to go ahead and do it, and I put it in the tree line. So if she, for whatever reason, if she did decide she didn't want her name, if she didn't want the year, it was real simple for me to paint over it. To me, this was a lot easier to paint on a canvas, then take a box cutter or an X-Acto knife, if that's what you got, and cut it out of the actual frame that the canvas is stretched on, and then just adhere it to the cap. Most graduation caps that I've painted in the past are made of polyester, and that's not an easy fabric to paint on, and the framework of a graduation cap is essentially just cardboard. So the more paint that you layer onto the cap itself, the more it's going to warp. So that's why I decided to actually use a cotton canvas that's prepped and ready for paint, and just to paint what I wanted. And it was so much easier of a process to actually just paint it and then transfer it and adhere it to the cap and seal it, and I'm just happier with it than if I had struggled to get the polyester to keep the paint.